No alarm, no manager, no 9 o'clock, no place you're supposed to be, and no quiet dread following you out the door. Your ancestors woke to a day that no clock had ever cut into shifts, in a world with no jobs at all, no wages, no schedules, no bosses, nobody watching the time. For most of human history, that was simply how a morning worked. It sounds like freedom. It sounds like the thing you daydream about at your desk. So here's the question worth stopping for. If nobody was paying them, and no clock was dividing their day, what did ancient humans actually do all day? The easy answer is nothing much. One long vacation. And that answer is completely wrong. They had no jobs, but they had hunger that came back every day, cold that could kill, children who could vanish in a second, tools that broke, wounds that turned deadly, and people who needed them to come home. Nobody handed them a paycheck, but every single morning they had to strive to survive, and the price of failing was your life. One honest note before we go further. No one wrote us a diary from the Stone Age, so this is a reconstruction, built from what archaeologists dig up, and from people who still live by hunting and gathering today. That's the only warning you'll need. The rest of the picture is clearer than you'd think. Start with the claim you've probably heard, that ancient people barely worked at all. It comes from real fieldwork. In the 1960s, an anthropologist named Richard Lee lived with the Juho in southern Africa and counted their hours. The famous result: adults spent only around 12 to 19 hours a week actually going out to get food, less than half a modern work week. It sounds like paradise, case closed. Except that number hides a trap, and once you see it, the fantasy falls apart. The trap is simple. Lee measured one thing: the hours spent leaving camp to find food. He wasn't counting what happened once the food came home. And that's where the real day was hiding. Water had to be carried, sometimes a long way. Firewood gathered and dried, the fire fed so it wouldn't die. Food processed, bones cracked, hides scraped and turned into something that could keep a body warm. Children kept close, tools repaired, edges resharpened, whatever broke, mended. Lee's famous number was real. It just never counted any of this. It measured the trip out for food, not the pile of other work waiting back at camp. And here's what our modern brains struggle with. A job today is a clean slice cut out of your life. One place, one task, traded for money. Ancient work had no such line. In a single day, one person might dig for roots, haul water, mind a toddler, scrape a hide, chip a stone edge, help butcher an animal, and keep half an eye on the horizon. None of it was optional. A tool left broken meant a bad hunt tomorrow. Wet firewood meant a freezing night. The stakes weren't abstract. They were tonight, and they were your family. So picture the morning. The first job is the fire, feeding last night's embers before they die instead of kindling a new flame from scratch. Yesterday's food might be shared. Then the group reads the day. Where the water's low. What tracks crossed camp in the dark. Which plants are ready. Who's sick. Then the camp splits. Some head out to gather, dig, fish or hunt. Others stay to cook, mend and mind the children. No boss, no shift, no clock. The day took shape around what the camp needed. Flexible, yes. Aimless, never. Now kill the movie myth. Ancient life as men chasing one giant animal from dawn to dusk. Big game hunting was real, but it meant long travel, patient tracking, and plenty of days you came back with nothing. In many places, the food you could actually count on came from a shifting mix of gathered plants, fishing, trapping, and small game, with a big kill now and then. And it wasn't one kind of person doing it. Women, men, teenagers, children, and elders all fed the group in their own way. Even a good hunt didn't end at the kill. The meat still had to be hauled, divided, cut, cooked, and dried before it spoiled. The dramatic moment lasted seconds. The work around it filled the day, but the urgent work didn't fill every hour. Once the food was in and the camp was safe, the day slowed. And this is the part the myths always miss. The afternoon was when a broken spear got remade properly, not just patched. When an older, more experienced hand sat with a child and showed them how to read a track, recognize a useful plant, or handle a stone edge. When people talked, argued, settled who owed what, and simply rested if the week had been kind. None of it looked like a job, but this was some of the most important work of all. It was how a lifetime of hard-won knowledge crossed from one person to the next, by hand, by voice, by watching. With a good supply of food, People had more of these quiet hours. A bad one took them straight back, and with hours like that, they made things that don't feed you at all. In Blombos Cave in South Africa, archaeologists found 41 tiny seashells, each deliberately pierced, each marked with the wear of being strung together. 75,000 years old. Everything about them points the same way: beads, made to be worn. In the very same cave, researchers pulled out lumps of red ochre, carved with careful cross-hatched patterns, deliberate, repeated, geometric. The same design shows up again and again across tens of thousands of years, which points to a shared meaning, taught and passed from one generation to the next. And deeper still, in levels around 100,000 years old, they found something stranger: a workshop. Shells used as containers, ochre ground down into pigment, a recipe someone had worked out and kept coming back to. None of it put food in anyone's mouth. They did it anyway, because being human was never only about surviving. Then the sun went down, and the day changed completely. A study of the Juhansi tracked what people talked about, and when. By daylight, the talk stayed practical. Plans, arguments, sorting out the day. But at night, around the fire, it turned into stories, distant people, memories, jokes, imagination. That fire-lit circle was part school, part library, part cinema. We can't hear a camp from 30,000 years ago, but fire opened up waking time after the practical work slowed, the kind of time where stories could teach, where a warning could harden into a legend, and where a people carried its knowledge forward with no written word at all. So don't romanticize it. Their free time swung with the season. A good week could bring long, lazy afternoons. A failed hunt, an illness, or a hard winter could erase all of it overnight. And a life with no jobs was also a life with no hospitals, no guaranteed meal, no pharmacy for the infection, no surgeon for the broken leg. A wound a doctor would close in 10 minutes today could quietly end you. Freedom from a boss is not the same as freedom from fear. They carried a weight most of us have forgotten how to feel. Then, slowly and in different places, people began to farm, and it rewrote the human day forever. Crops, animals, storage, staying put. It could feed far more people and support settlements denser than any mobile camp, but it brought a new kind of time: planting that couldn't wait, weeding that never ended, harvests that had to happen now, grain to grind, stores to guard. At an early town called Çatalhöyük, that crowded life came with more disease, worn-down teeth, and bodies pushed hard by labor, though never the same everywhere. And as settlements grew, the day kept splitting. Some made pottery, some wove, some traded, some kept count. Not jobs with salaries yet, but the distant ancestor of the clock, the contract, and the 9-to-5 workday. The seed was planted the moment people started living by the schedule of crops and stores, work that couldn't wait, instead of the shifting rhythm of a small camp reading the day around it. So, were they freer than you? It's tempting to say yes and stop there, but the honest answer is quieter. They had no jobs, and still their days were full of real work, from first light to the last of the fire. What they didn't have was a title for any of it, and maybe that's the part worth sitting with. Their work was visible: a tended fire, a repaired tool, a child kept safe, food carried home. Everyone could see why it mattered. Nobody needed a job to make their hours count. Modern life didn't invent work, or skill, or the weight of being needed. All that changed is how we cut time into pieces, measure it, and sell it. By the permission of your Lord, those people used the means they were given and leaned on one another to stay alive, the same way you lean on more people than you'll ever meet. They didn't spend their days doing nothing. They spent them tending a small human world. And so, quietly, does every hour of yours.